Hello, good evening. How are you?
So Priscilla made her exit, huh?
She did. We need a note taker.
Oh,
Would you be qualified for the task?
I think I can write. I have a feeling that was coming my way.
You did such a good job last time. I may have
That's what
volunteered
that's
you.
what happens when
Yeah.
you do a good job, right?
Now Priscilla can't give you a hard time about
Yeah,
product
that,
either.
not being numbered properly. I got schooled on that one. I know. I'm so credit.
No, don't. Just always ask me. I'll print it for you. Yes.
There's quite a bit of reading in this one this past week.
Yeah, a lot of homework on this one.
I know. It's kicking off the holiday season.
Yes,
I think she has a pop quiz in her
It's
slide
like,
list.
is that what it is? Yeah.
What did you see
Check
on
it.
page 36? No.
Marcus, would you be okay running 5 and 5C? I'll step out or let's see.
If all I'm doing is guiding, yeah. I mean, because
There's nothing
right,
special to other than just open it up for the presentation and the discussion.
right. Yeah, Valerie's.
Yeah.
Valerie's.
I'll do it as long as Brianna walks
Okay.
me through the
Yeah, Brianna's a
appropriate
good.
way
That'd be
to do it. I will do it.
I can do that.
Thank you.
You're not stepping out. You're just going to the audience. Or you
No, I'll go ahead and step out just to not be in the room.
It's with 2 G's, right?
Yes, sir.
That's what I thought. I worked with a guy, his last name was Griggs, but it was 1 G.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was from up North Texas way.
There aren't many around here.
Yeah.
Well, Troy, I don't see many pitchforks and torches out tonight, so hopefully it'll be a calm first meeting for you.
Well, I hope so. Because I just found out, I guess, Friday. So I haven't had much time to review a whole lot. Don't feel bad. I think that's the SOP around here. But notice he sat closest to the exit door.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing.
He's smart guy.
There were names everywhere else.
Yeah.
And the exit.
Oh,
the exit
yeah,
door had
yeah,
something to do with it too. But
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's no policeman trick that I learned. He says, anytime you go in a place, you make sure you know where the exit door is and you sit closest to it.
All right, 6:30. Brianna, you got everything up and running?
Yep.
Go ahead
Okay.
and get the show on the road?
Yep.
All right. Call the meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. Start with roll call.
Marcus Fuentes?
Valerie Solis.
Jim Welch.
Brian Griffin.
Troy Griggs.
Right. Now we'll move into citizens' comments. Open those up at 6:30. Being nobody here to speak, we will close it at 6:30 as well. We'll now move into item 4, approval of the minutes for October 8th, 2025. There's a copy of the minutes in your packet. If you've been able to review it, please let us know if you have any comments, any notes on things that need to be changed. If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve minutes for October 8th.
A motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now as we get into discussion, if you guys are okay with it, what I'd like to do is move item 5C up to the first. I need to recuse myself on that item because I'm the civil engineer of record. So I will we'll move that up, and I will hand the gavel over to Valerie. And just yell for me when
Okay.
y'all are done.
Thanks. All right.
So first, you're just going to read aloud what the agenda item is, okay?
Okay, agenda item 5C, discussion and appropriate action on the Victory Lane Development Agreement.
Okay. So what I'm first going to do, hi guys, good evening. For everybody who doesn't know, my name is Brianna Soto of Community Development Department. Just give me 1 second. I timed out or something. So sorry.
Oh, no, you're okay.
It'll take just 1 second. There we go. All right. And so we're just going to go down to where we're going to be. First, we do have the developer here or the attorney for the developer. So we're going to go ahead and let him speak. He provided us a few slides, and then after that, we're going to get into my part of the presentation, and we'll go through what I've presented to y'all, okay?
Okay.
So, Mr. Killen, if you want to go ahead and come on up, and then let's see.
Thank you, Ms. Soto. Madam Chair, Commissioners, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here and talk about this project. My name is Rob Killen. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Killen, Griffin, and Fairmont. Our address is 10101 Reunion Place in the city of San Antonio. I'm joined here by the developer, Greg Gibson, with Endura, the owner of Victory Lane, developer of the project we're going to talk about this evening. I only have a few slides. A couple of them are, Brianna, I think you've got control.
Yes, I do. I'm so sorry.
They're
It's just-
really good pictures, and then a couple of slides with some words on them. But I'll wait till we get those pulled up.
And it's not.
While she's pulling them up, though, just really provide some context, because the P&Z in Castroville has not traditionally heard development agreements. Those have all gone over the years directly to city council, usually negotiated directly with the city attorney city staff, sometimes mayor, council members, and have gone there. What is a new policy is bringing development agreements, either existing ones. We did a revision to a couple of development agreements a couple of months ago, as you may recall, or a new development agreement that you're seeing tonight, and that's the Victory Lane. Now, I say that Victory Lane is a new development agreement. There was a development agreement approved for Victory Lane back in 2021. So this is a project we've been working on for a number of years. What you're seeing is really a revised version of what had been previously approved. Due to market conditions, did not move forward at that time. That development agreement expired, but we are ready to move forward with this project. Oh, and I've got some slides up.
Okay.
Thank you.
We're gonna, oh, no.
Wait, no?
Come on.
There we go.
Okay, all right, we'll do this and then I'll go into the other one. I don't know why it's doing
Yeah.
that.
I know that there was an admonition about talking into the microphone, but I can't quite see. So can you all still hear me?
Yeah.
Is it clear enough for the record?
Mhm.
I'm going to step back a little ways. So what you see in this first slide is it shows you the location of the property outlined in, let's say, green. Looks green from here. It is located just outside city limits. You can see the area that is shaded is the city's extraterritorial jurisdiction. That is the area outside the city limits, but still subject to the city's jurisdiction. It is just east of the Caleb property, the North Park property, and just there's one intervening property between the Caleb property and Victory Lake property, and that is the Persine property. Persine owns that intervening property. Fronts on Highway 90. It's about 50 acres. And is part of the city's major thoroughfare plan, or future thoroughfare plan, which you can see in this next slide. And what is anticipated is, this is perfect, let's stop on this slide. A connector road that goes north-south and east-west, basically tees through the property as part of the future thoroughfare plan. And so what we are proposing is to develop this property as commercial with some retail primarily, but a commercial development. And really, it's about building the road. That's what this development agreement about is. How do we build the road and how do we pay for it? So let's go to, I only have really two substantive slides. The first slide, which I call applicable regulations and the benefits of the city without the agreement. So without the agreement, we're outside the city limits. Cities in Texas lost the right to annex back in 2019. It's not zoned. There are no tax revenues, either ad valorem or sales tax flowing to the city. There are no design requirements that apply to the city. And the city can't require building permits and also will not receive building permit fees from any development on the site. It's in the extraterritorial jurisdiction, but in the 2023 legislative session, the legislature said, if you're in the ETJ, you want to pull out the ETJ, you can pull out the ETJ by right with certain exceptions, like if you're near a military base, none of which apply here. And so if it remains in the ETJ, the city's subdivision regulations continue to apply. But if it's removed from the ETJ, those subdivision regulations apply, and the future thoroughfare plan requirements don't apply. So let's go to the next slide. I'm my only other slide. And that is a lot of small print. Sorry about that. But these are all the benefits the city enjoys if we are able to enter into this agreement. One, it can be annexed. We're going to voluntarily agree that it can be annexed, and we would anticipate the city would annex it. It can be zoned. The city would zone upon annexation. The city receives both ad valorem and sales tax revenues from the property. As part of the agreement, the city would receive 25%, and I think Brianna's going to talk about that in her presentation. But you get zero tax now. You bring it into the city. You start getting ad valorem and sales tax. Use of design regulations, including the design criteria, which is your ordinance for properties along the 90 corridors for commercial buildings in the city. There will be a certified inspector that the city and developer agree upon that looks at the public improvements that are being made. We have a number of prohibited uses. Sexually oriented businesses, Ray would never have one of those in development regardless, but we're going to agree to prohibit those. Tobacco, sales, vape shops, the bad stuff, the massage parlors, bingo halls, pawn shops, catering vendors, truck stops. I don't think truck stops are bad, but we're agreeing to prohibit truck stops there. Trucks got to stop somewhere, but it ain't going to be on this property if we have an agreement. Property is subject to building permit requirements, which means you also get building permit fees. Subdivision regulations apply. The future thoroughfare plan applies. The biggest thing about that, though, is not only does the future thoroughfare plan apply, developer is agreeing to dedicate the right of way and build those two roads, that T that we saw, and take all the costs and front all of the costs, borrow the money it needs, so to cover the interest, cover the cost of capital, hard costs, soft costs, engineering, all of that is being paid for by the developer. Developer's also going to pay $25,000 for a nice entrance sign for the city, and then developer's taking all the risk. If this project does not happen, he does not get paid back under the agreement. So all the risk is on the developer, all the upfront cost is on the developer. And what we're asking for under the agreement is that the city, based on the increased ad valorem and sales tax coming from the property, pay back the developer for their costs upfront with a cap of $6 million. So if the public improvements are more than $6 million, that's on him. And then interest, and that's, I think, a point of discussion that's still hanging out there is what is the appropriate interest rate? I know Brianna's going to cover that in her presentation. But that's it in a nutshell. It's fairly straightforward. It's commercial development, and this agreement really is about paying for those roads. Those roads, which include TxDOT improvements as well, are roads that the citizens of the city of Castroville will use. So it really serves a public good, and not just a public good, but the citizens' needs as well. With that, I will conclude my remarks, and I know Soto has a presentation as well. We're happy to answer any questions, and like I said, Mr. Gibson is here. He's got who signs the checks and can make decisions, but our goal tonight is to give you the opportunity to address any questions or concerns that you have, and allow us to get in front of City Council and present this to City Council. So with that, I'll conclude my remarks, and Ms. Soto.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, and then I'm gonna try and jump back in here, and then let's see, is it letting me? Yes, okay, good, we're ready to rock and roll. Okay, so I took a little bit of an approach to this because I know Mr. Griggs wasn't on the last Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, but at the last meeting, I did have this as an agenda item because they were coming forward with the development agreement. And I know that some people, because Mr. Fuentes had asked some questions about it, had taken the time to review it when it very first came forward. So I wanted to take it from the approach of what they submitted and how it's improved since the last submission. But at any point during my slides, if you want to interrupt me and ask questions, feel free to do so because there's quite a few and I don't want those questions to get lost as we go through them. Okay, so tonight's purpose. So we're going to review what was improved in the development agreement from the last one, what wasn't improved, and then the remaining risk to the city. And then at the end of this, we're going to identify the final recommendation that P&Z wants to make to City Council. As some of y'all, all of y'all should know, this is a recommending body. So ultimately, City Council is going to have those final negotiations and that final approval of the development agreement. All right. So what's improved? So there were some major changes positive for the city. So the interest rate was lowered. The old one was 8.5%, and right now the new one is prime plus 1%. And the current prime rate is between 7 and 8%. I provided a long table in y'all's packet to show how it fluctuates over time. So it could be as low as 4. It can be right now. It's been as high as 8.5. So it fluctuates over time. But basically, what this does is at that time, whatever that interest rate is, it's that rate plus a 1% on top of that, which is fairly typical for development, and that's not out of the ordinary. Better inspection rules. The city now has more authority to improve and remove inspectors. Real construction schedule added. That was one thing that was missing. It was an exhibit that I don't believe I got the first time, so that was added, which is great. So we know exactly what that timeline looks like. Stronger maintenance bond language. That just makes the language post-construction better for the city. And then clear utility responsibilities. And then the developer obligations for phase 2 water and wastewater was clarified in that updated version. So we're going to go through some of these in more in depth, but like I said, if you have questions, feel free to stop me at any point. So why is the prime plus 1% better? Well, it's just better because before it was 8.5 no matter what. So if at that time that they're going to start charging interest, if it was going to be a 4% interest rate and still the city's getting charged 8.5%, that's not a good business deal. I don't think for the city. Where that could fall short on the developer is that if for some reason it's 10% interest, then they're kind of getting not the better end of the deal on that side. And then so it just automatically adjusts with the market, which is fairly typical. They're doing all the infrastructure improvements at their own risk up front with their own money. And so just over time, because eventually those are going to benefit the city, they get their payment back on that. So, And then the developer cannot exceed the actual cost of the capital. And then so this is much closer to the development agreements that we've seen before. So Alsatian Oaks was 6%, but like I said, if you look at that table, that's because when Alsatian Oaks came on the board, it was 6%. And then same thing with Flat Creek, it can be up to 10%. That was a negotiation. So whenever it's coming around for the what we're going to be paying them back, that has to go back to city council, and then they negotiate that rate, I believe, but it could be up to 10%. And that's because it's a flexibility with the rate at that time. And then Heights of Castroville is 8.5%. So we're not too far off from those. Better inspection and bonding. So inspection control. So the city can improve and remove construction inspectors. That wasn't in the language before, and that's something that we do want to have a little bit of control over, just because we know what we want to see out of those inspections. And so sometimes if we're not getting what we need, then we want some flexibility to be able to do that, to get somebody that we want. And then maintenance bond protections. Bond is assignable to the city and ensures defects are corrected after acceptance. That's typical for any construction. That's what we require for residential. So that's great that that's in there. Utility responsibilities clarified. So updated in the new draft, the developer responsibilities for phase 2 water was defined, water and wastewater, because it wasn't clearly defined before. It clearer utility extension obligations and improves long-term system planning. So we just know what's going to happen in the future and how those utilities are going to be accounted for in the future. And then why this matters, it prevents disputes over who's going to pay for the final utility connections and supports predictable future operations, like I just said. So we know what's going to happen with those utilities in the future.
Brianna, real quick, the utility services are provided by Castroville, right?
Water and wastewater are. Electric is not,
Okay.
and gas. I don't know if y'all are asking for gas for that subdivision.
We have not specifically.
No, yeah. So the electric's going to go through CPS, and it's just water and wastewater that the city will be dedicated to the city at the end.
Okay.
Okay, so what did not improve? So some city concerns. So there was no cap on the total interest. So only construction costs were capped. So that's just one thing that kind of red flagged me, but we'll have a chance to talk through that and hopefully maybe even get the developers, what they have to say about that. City only keeps 25% of the new taxes. It's weird because like you want the most, but they also have to make their money back, so we understand that. But maybe it could be 40-60, maybe it could be 50-50. It's just something that could improve, but we're still getting tax revenue that we wouldn't have gotten before there. So we have to look at it from that side.
Question, how it says developer retains 75% until reimbursed. What's the planning factor? What's the timeline for that to be fully reimbursed after development? Is it 5 years, 10 years?
I think it was in the 15-year range.
15-year range. So we're saying for 15 years, the city's only going to receive 25%. Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay, thank you.
And that 75 goes towards
The reimbursement costs for the developer to put that infrastructure in.
and once council approves, when is start date or projected start date?
Where the biggest question mark there is tax.
Okay, gotcha. Understandable. I get that.
Yeah.
I'm on the utility side. I understand. All right,
The plan would be for about a year from now.
Gotcha.
If we can get the approvals from tax.
Gotcha.
And then, so the next one is TxDOT improvements still included. So the only reason why this we're not requiring for those to go in, that's TxDOT. So it's like, should the city be reimbursing for those requirements that TxDOT's making them do, but not necessarily the city? And really the city, besides maybe getting better circulation in that area, doesn't really benefit the city. It's on TxDOT right of way, all of those things. But like I said, it's still an improvement being done. So that's always great. But we could talk through that a little bit also. No annual reporting. I just kind of threw that in there. It's always great to be able to maybe come back and say, hey, this is where we're at right now. This is where we're going to be. This is where we project to be next year. And then maybe continue with that in the future. No upgraded building design requirements. I touched on this because in our development agreement policy, as we're talking through that was one thing that stood out to me, is that we are asking for developers, because we can't leverage that with building materials and what that looks like. And it may be because they don't know what's going there yet, but maybe that's something that can be worked into development agreement and really high level, but just say upgraded building standards. So we're not getting just like metal buildings out there on Highway 90, but that's just a form of negotiation. And then stronger vested rights for the developer. What that means is that there's language in there stating that whatever ordinances that we have on the books right now is what they go by. So if in the future, let's just say we're going through the sign ordinance right now and we've come up with a better sign ordinance, more ordinance that better supports what we're trying to accomplish in the city, they still are able to go by our previous ordinance because that's what was on the books whenever at the time. Okay, so infrastructure and tech dot concerns. So y'all saw the tech dot improvements in your Exhibit E. There was no exclusion clause. And like I said, this is just one of those things that it's like if the city is not the one that's asking for it, is it something that we should really be allowing reimbursement for? So that's just where that goes back to.
So on the packet you sent, it had a super turn lane on both sides, and it had the left only.
Yeah.
Who's going to be paying for all that?
They are.
So they are. So
Yes.
the city's going to be paying for text dot improvements. That's
Ultimately, those improvements
If this
are wrapped
is-
into the reimbursable costs for that $6 million. Yes. And I don't know if the city will be paying for all of them. I don't know what that number came out to be at the end. And I don't know if it's completely wrapped between infrastructure. Let's just say those costs were $3 million. I don't know if that's all consuming for the cost that we're reimbursing, but it's included in there. It's calculated in there to some degree.
So regardless of what the costs are, as far as TxDOT is concerned, our cap is still 6 million.
That's correct.
Plus interest.
So. All right, and then design. Like I said, I think I kind of went into these a little bit more detail. So design and community characters. So just higher quality facade standards, landscaping upgrades, signage or lighting enhancements, corridor design elements. These are all just things that could be asked for if the city decides to, and it's just because we are trying to get that higher design standard as development comes in. And then new developer protections increase. So like I said earlier, they expanded the vested rights protection. I don't believe that was in there in the first go around. And so it just limits the ability of the city to permit them in the future for what we see at that time. So it's just whatever's on the books right now is what you're going to get. But if you like what you have on the books now, then that's not a big issue, right? So. And then, so the key differences, so improved interest rate, that's a significant improvement. More defined schedule, better inspection control, clearer utility responsibles. Still a little problematic, maybe be unlimited interest, text items included, weak design standards, developer keeps the 75% of taxes, and no performance requirements, and then expanded vested rights. But what is the value to the city? Because ultimately this does bring value to the city. It's not just us throwing money at it. So the developer pays upfront for all this new infrastructure, which eventually y'all see how the city's growing. There's going to have to be infrastructure, and it's better for the developers pay for it. The city doesn't want to have to take on that risk or that burden. So it's always better to have the developers pay for that as it's coming in. So the city will carry no debt because of that. The city receives 25% of new taxes that we wouldn't get beforehand. So if they're annexing into the city, we get 25%, and that's commercial taxes. That's not residential. So that's actually a much higher rate if that for all those commercial buildings that would be going out there. And then annexation, utilities, new commercial tax base. Sorry, I kind of reiterated that. They're also providing the gateway entrance improvements. So they're allowing a spot for us to put like a entrance sign for City of Castroville, and then also doing a $25,000 contribution to that sign. So, which is great because that's been on the conversations for a long time, is having a better signage for the entrance to the City of Castroville, and that's actually a really good place for it to go. So that's great. And then connection to the thoroughfare, that is like the connecting road that goes directly through that through their development is the one that's going to be tying into that one that goes through Flat Creek and Alsatian Oaks. And so them providing that right away, dedicating that right away, and then also building that out, that's a huge improvement for the city. And so
You said building that out. They're going to be building that out?
That's correct.
Okay.
The right of way, right? I believe so. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then permits and plans go through the City of Castroville. Since they're annexing in, we get more oversight in the end. So if it's not annexed into the city, if it's disannexed from the E2J, we get zero oversight over it, and that's completely in the county, and we get no say in what happens. And so what we're looking at for tonight, there's 3 possible motions that can happen, just so you all know. So you can recommend to City Council for approval, and with any comments that y'all have for it, you can also just recommend if you think that it's great and you don't have any additional comments. You can table if you have additional revisions, or you can also recommend denial if you just don't think that it's what the city would like. But I would hope that this is something the city's been working through for about 2 to 3 years, it seems like. So I'm hoping that at the end of this, we can at least provide City Council a recommendation with any insight y'all want to give them. So I'll open that up for questions.
So I know on one of the slides presented earlier, it says developer takes all risk. Can you just further define that for me, sir?
Yeah, no, thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the question. So the question was, comment about the developer taking the risk. The city is putting nothing into this, right?
Mhm.
So the risk to the city, there is no risk to the city. So Greg builds us out. We enter in the agreement. He spends all the money on the infrastructure, and no one buys. This isn't going to happen, but no one buys any of the property, right? And he's paying all the taxes himself to pay for the infrastructure to pay himself back, and so all the risk is him. The city doesn't come out of pocket a single penny, and the city's not making a commitment to build the infrastructure. The city's not making a commitment to give him $6 million out of thin air.
Right.
There is a provision in the Texas Constitution. The city cannot commit to giving money it doesn't have unless there's identified source of revenue, or what's called a sinking fund. So the city can't commit to it, isn't committing to it. So there's nothing the city is doing that involves any element of risk. So it's all on him and his ability to build it out and sell the property.
Okay, thank you. Brianna, is there any impact to the school, to the high school, middle school?
Well, actually, I think it's probably an impact for the better. And the reason why I say that is because it's not a whole bunch of residential houses going in there. Right now, they're overwhelmed, and they have a lot of new base for students right now between all the subdivisions. So I think that the fact that it's commercial and not residential is actually a benefit to the school right now. Is that kind of what you're looking at? Yeah. And they're going to get their tax revenue also, because the tax rate, whatever, some of it goes to the school also. Okay. So they get their money from this development. It's just broken out into their tax rate.
Okay.
Yeah.
One other question on the plat. Did I see on that back side of the property, it says multifamily? Is that, we're talking apartments? Is that what's going to be going in there?
That's it. We, on everything to
the north.
Of the commercial, we really don't have plans for. So there's potential that we talked about, maybe that'd be a townhome or residential type component, but there's nothing planned right now.
Okay, that was actually going to be phase 2, that part of it?
Yes.
Okay.
But right now, the focus is on the commercial running on 90 and then the commercial right behind it.
Okay. Yeah, I just it was just labeled multifamily use, and I was kind of like, okay, is that apartments, or what's that going to look like later on? So, but there's no specific plans right now.
No.
Okay.
So this right here, we're specifically speaking about just the commercial aspect. So with you, when you're saying that isn't any residential going up, but there is a possibility of residential.
So, okay, let me clarify,
Yeah.
because multifamily apartment complex is not considered residential.
Okay.
So it falls in the commercial.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I guess if they did, because it is a commercial tract and that's what they're zoning it for, it potentially could be that. So I misspoke there. That
Okay.
maybe there could be an addition of families going to there.
Right. So,
Yeah.
okay.
And
There
would there be a variance required if they were to start building residential, typical residential instead of multifamily?
No.
Or how
and
would that process work?
No, not really, because it's a tier structure. So like you can't put commercial and residential, but residential can fall into commercial and it goes down like that. So you can't put industrial and commercial, but you can put commercial and industrial. And so it's a tiered structure. So no, if it was, they would have to go for a zone change. Oh, well, not. They would probably want to go for a zone change because of the setbacks requirement. There's different zoning classifications that go with residential, but is it a requirement to do that? I don't believe so.
So if this were to get annexed, all 50 acres, how would it be zoned?
The zoning, we're not allowed to zone at annexation.
Gotcha.
So actually, If I'm thinking about it, doesn't it come in as residential and it has to be rezoned to commercial?
Yeah, every jurisdiction is
Yeah.
different. Some municipalities will run annexation and zoning simultaneously.
Yeah.
City of Castroville does not. I would anticipate, just because of our past experience in Castroville, it's going to be a PUD, planned unit development.
Yeah.
And so all of the uses will be identified. To the question about the single family, I don't anticipate, I'm looking at Greg right now. There's 50 acres. You can't do single family, but I would anticipate that would not be included in the PUD. We would have to come back to city council, to y'all and to city council for any residential component. But my guess would be we'd come in with a PUD.
Okay, so let's talk about the 25% back to the city. Now you're saying that's positive. Got it. It's money that we would not have received, right?
Mhm.
So how is that number? How did that number come about? I'm sure.
It's
I'm not.
just part of the negotiation.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's probably something that they've done with other cities. This is not the first development agreement they've probably done. So, I mean, you're more than welcome to speak to that.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Again, to provide some context. So a lot of the work we do is special districts, public improvement districts, MUDs, things like that. This is not a special district, although it's structured probably most similar to a tax increment reinvestment zone. In all of these deals, Brianna listed the kind of the interest rates, for example, the different, I worked on all those other projects as well, Alsatian and Heights and Flat Creek. And so every one of these deals, in this case, the 25% that you're asking about, every developer sits down with the city, with bond counsel, financial advisor, city staff, and we say, this is what we need to do to bridge the gap. In this particular case, we modeled it out. Greg modeled it out with his team. We presented it to the city staff and said, 25% gets us paid back over this 15-year or so period. And that's basically it.
Mm-hmm.
If it was a greater percentage of the city, it just increases the payback period, but then that increases the amount of interest, right? So it's all a balancing act. You have a balloon, you can squeeze it this way or squeeze it this way, but to get made whole, you've got to get to that number. And so the number that made sense, and like I said, this was approved by City Council a number of years ago, I guess 4 years ago now, and we made that same kind of calculation at the time. So that's what makes sense. Explaining it as a layperson, not as a finance expert, Greg, but that fairly captures it.
Yeah, no, that's the gist of it is that, it gets us paid back quicker, and it creates less interest.
Yeah.
So it just gets us paid back within the period.
It basically it was a percentage that seemed fair.
Yeah. Okay. And Brian, from a city perspective, 25% is. I mean, I'm sure we haven't done the analysis on that 25%. I mean, in the capacity as far as providing further utilities to commercial, because it's kind of becoming its own district. I mean, but its own commercial entity, and the maintenance thereof, and hiring more folks. I mean, I just want to make sure that 25% is done the analysis from a city's perspective.
And they had, and the reason why I say this is because he's correct. When this went through the city 4 years ago and it got approved, so that analysis has been done.
Okay.
Yeah, to make sure that it covers the cost of extending PD. The ESD is not through the city of Castroville, but all of those things, and any extension of utilities they pay for. So even as they go further into their development, that's all going to be paid for by them as well. We don't take on the burden of that. Actually, we get impact fee money back from them.
Okay.
So.
Can we touch base on, I'm stuck on the text dot. How come that's not a controlled intersection versus super right or whatever you call that?
Trust.
Now, was that recommended by y'all or that's what text dot wants?
That's what text dot
wants. We wanted a full intersection. We wanted a signalized intersection, and text dot has told us that they don't want any more signals on 90, and they want that super street type structure.
So that was not their doing. Yeah, we all kind of had a little heartburn about that. Yeah.
I see both sides of it, but it's just going to be different because I guess we're not used to it in this part of the world.
Yeah.
I know they're trying it on the west side of Castroville with the new Microsoft stuff, and it's still different. It's different.
Yeah, no, if you convince them to do a 4-way intersection.
I was actually talking to one of the state guys today, and I mentioned this to him. He's like, I didn't know they proposed that. So that's why I was asking the question.
That's very cool.
Okay.
Okay.
Does anybody have any further questions? Okay, Brianna, can you take us to our options?
Yeah, of course.
Please?
Oh, sorry, went too far.
Do you have any other further input you want to let us know?
No, I think that they made a lot of yeah, it was pretty harsh, I would say, on the first round of comments. And so I appreciate that they took the time to just take that back and reevaluate. So no, I don't have any additional comments at
Okay.
this time.
Then I'd like to just open it for either further discussion from Marcus.
So I don't know. I'm fairly new to this board. I'll be straight up and upfront. I've only seen one other development agreement as far as value on what we approved, and it was only a $2 million issue or with Country Village. And seeing 6, it just opened your eyes like, wow, it's 3 times as much as that. And the only reason I'm, I guess, comparing the two is because the amount of taps, streets, how many kickouts are going to be for water, sewer, the sidewalk improvements, the curb improvements, and I know what we approved there. And not all I see, I mean, I understand the project, and I see a road approximately however many foot that is going up, and then the T part. I didn't realize you're going to build that out. I just thought it was going to be the north-south road, and that was it. And so, and I only see 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 properties per se, and so you're going to have like 10 kickouts for sewer taps and all that, and just that 6 million. That is the projected cost of all this with TxDOT though.
Yeah, it's a lot higher than that, so I think we're.
And 9, I think, is what is on there.
Something like that. That does include the sewer extension and water extending to the side as well.
Okay.
I think we have sidewalks in there.
Yeah, I believe so. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just didn't see that part. But okay, I don't know if it's in this packet. I know this is a pretty broad, like bubble view or whatever they call it. Okay, I mean, if all that is in there, I get it. And I see that more so. Okay, that's really the only insight that I had inquired about.
Okay. Mr. Griffin, do you have any other?
I would just say, based on what I've read in the packet, that I would make the recommendation that it move forward to the council. That would be my comment.
Okay. Mr. Griggs?
Yeah, my initial response was the 25.75, but I actually like the idea of getting it paid back faster and keeping the interest down. So, and I think all this pricing is pretty fair pricing. So
Okay.
I would be agreeable to move ahead with it.
Okay. I think for me personally, I do agree that at this point of time, especially going back and forth over a couple of years, it does need to go before city council. My only genuine concern has nothing to do probably with P&Z. It's just, the culture, small community, the high school being right there, Victory Lane, what it has been, and, kind of now what it's going to turn into be.
Yeah.
So it would kind of be nice to kind of keep some cultural aspect of that. But I mean, we're way past that. But messaging and narrative is going to be important from the city to relay that and to include the developers to get buy-in. People have a lot of memories about Victory Lane, so now we're going to have to combat that. But specifically for this, do I just kind of make
Whoever wants to make a motion, you can either do that or anybody can make a motion.
I move to recommend that City Council review and consider further negotiation of the Victory Lane Development Agreement based on the comments and concerns discussed.
Do I have a second?
I second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Yeah, and then all in favor?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Approve.
Approve?
Did you say approval of it?
Yes.
Okay, I was just making sure it said approval, because if you just motion to move forward, it should say motion to approve.
I just read the recommended motion and
Okay.
I don't have it on there.
Okay.
I move to recommend that City Council.
Okay, I'm sorry. I should have, and that was my mistake. And it was probably because I wasn't sure what the motion was going to be.
Right.
But it should say, I motion to approve the Victory Lane Development Agreement with maybe comments stated throughout this meeting or throughout this. So if we could redo that, I'm sorry. Is that what you're going to say too? Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Just say so moved.
So moved. Yeah, you can say so moved and I will take my motion.
So moved to add approve.
Okay, all right.
That,
Good, got it.
Do I say motion?
And then we got a first and you have a second. All in favor?
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Okay, all opposed? Motion passes.
Motion passes.
There you go.
Thank you all so much for your time.
Thank you.
For the rest of your time. And great holidays. Happy holidays.
You enjoyed dinner?
Awesome.
Took a nap back there. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, it's a great.
All right, let's move on to the next agenda item 5A, which is discussion on Chapter 24 sign and signage.
Okay, so a few months ago, it was for who wasn't on P&Z at the time, it was City Council tasked Planning and Zoning with starting to do some revisions on ordinances that needed to be updated, and little things that they saw that were issues in the community. I will say that this is probably a push of staff a little bit because the sign ordinance is really bad. So I did make that recommendation to P&Z that maybe we should start looking here. It's a standalone ordinance. It's just out of a chapter out of our code of ordinances. So it's not in the CZO, it's not in your subdivision ordinance, it's standalone. So it's actually easy to manipulate and fix, fairly easy, as long as it reflects what y'all want in y'all's community. Okay, and so why are we here to update Chapter 24, which is your sign and signage ordinance, signs and signage? Current ordinance is a bit outdated. It was done back in 2015, but if I remember correctly, they started it in like 2011, but it just took so long for them to do. And I understand, I felt like looking back at the language, I think what was happening, and it's really hard to create codes like this, is that let's just say like Habeas. Habeas sign is probably not good, like it'll be out of conformance because it's such a large sign. That one's probably, I don't know, like for a Highway 91, it's huge. So I think what they were trying to do is like code in all of those signs. But what you really want to do is code for the masses. You allow for the non-conforming to exist. And then whenever other people come in and maybe they say, well, I want a sign like Habeas sign, well, that's going to go for a variance. Like you're going to have to ask for an exception on that instead of trying to code in all these exceptions into the ordinance. And I think that's what they were trying to do with the 2015 ordinance. And so we'll see some of that language, and we'll kind of go through that. All right, and it's hard to interpret. The Highway 90 special sign area is outdated, and there's some enforcement limitations that are within the ordinance. Okay, so the current ordinance is outdated, so there's no dark skies. That's been a big thing that we've talked about over the past couple of years, is that we're trying to keep this rural feel. The only way to do that is to limit the amount of dark night sky, lighting at night. And the biggest lighting at night issue is signage, commercial signage. So we're going to talk about that. It allows for off-premise signs, which is just really outdated. People don't allow for those anymore because it wreaks havoc. It's just, that means that your business isn't there, but you're allowed to advertise for your business or your subdivision on somebody else's property. And it just, it can create some issues. So typically that's not standardized language to allow that anymore. No coordinated approach for multi-tenant shopping centers. So that's another modernization thing. So now what they call it is, there's where you apply for a overall master sign plan when it comes to the commercial tenant shopping centers. Instead of it being, I'm going to put one pylon sign, one freestanding sign, one monument sign, a couple wall signs here. It's just one big sign plan to make sure it's not too busy and that it's easy to move forward with. Weak enforcement language. If you read through the enforcement language after you saw this, it was because the language is just so hard to read that's hard to enforce. When you can't understand what you're reading, you can't enforce it very well. And then it's not fully content neutral. So there was a law that passed, I think it was in 2021, where you can't say any kind of specifics that's not allowed on a sign. And we'll kind of go into these in more depth. And we actually still refer to that kind of language that you're not supposed to have in your sign ordinance anymore. And then lack zoning-based sign matrix. We'll go into this also. I'm not going to dwell on that. And then hard to understand. All the rules and regulations are buried inside of paragraphs. All the standards are spread out. We'll look at that. They're in long paragraphs. There's no clear charge. The Highway 90 special sign area, that just adds another layer of exception. So you'll have all these sign regulations, and then you have a whole another section for Highway 90 that speak to the same pylon signs, monument signs, wall signs, and it's very tricky. So And I should know because I've been working with it for about 7 years now. And then, there's just no simple process of explaining on how you're supposed to get a permit, how you're supposed to get a variance, if there's an appeal. Right now, it's the same thing. It's really like up to your interpretation because it's hard to read. So the goal for tonight is just to review the draft and give feedback. So we're not taking action. This is the first time y'all are seeing it. Y'all are probably going to have a lot of iterations. I know that once I started going through this, you write something and you think it's great. Of course, it's perfect. But then after I started going through the PowerPoint slides, I already found things that need work. So we'll go through those too. And then let's go. So chapter by chapter summary. So I'm going to go through this quick, but not too fast. Same thing. If y'all have any questions, I would just stop me in the moment. So we're not trying to refer back to them later. So purpose and intent, it's the same for both. I try to keep the language as consistent with the existing sign ordinance where it's not deterring from the regulations as long as it's modern and it's allowed by law still, and it's not super hard to interpret. So, and then dark skies was included. So I try to keep everything the same as much as I possibly could, but also modernizing it at the same time. So both set goals for safety, visibility, and aesthetics, and then both reference Texas local government code. So your good purpose and intent is matched in both the existing sign ordinance and the proposed sign ordinance. Applicability, what is the same? It applies to the city and ETJ, that's already in your existing ordinance. And permit required unless exempt, that's already existing in your ordinance. That's not something that's changing.
Quick question on that, Brianna.
Yes.
How do you enforce a sign ordinance out in the ETJ when they don't have to come to you for a permit?
They do. So Texas law, there's only two things. If they're in your ETJ, it's just like the subdivision ordinance. They have to come to you for signage and your subdivision ordinance. Those are the only two things that they come to you for permitting for.
So we've had developments that, although they don't have a building permit process out in the county ETJ, they do come to the city for signage.
Like the Circle K, that's actually not in our city limits, but they have to come to us whenever they make any sign modifications. Yeah, and it's based off of, we have ETJ language in the sign ordinance, so we can't base it off of zoning because there is no zoning in the ETJ. But we have language in our existing ordinance and in the new one that limits what they can do if they're in our ETJ.
Okay.
Yeah. And so applicability, what's different? So there's just more explicit rules. So only signs expressly permitted are allowed. Right now, the language is a little weird. And then things that are different in chapter 24 that they include is like a broader exemption list. For some reason, the exemption list is very long, which is so weird because they regulate very strict. So it's a little different. And then violations and enforcement, what's the same in both of the ordinances? Unlawful placement prohibited, city may remove dangerous or illegal signs, daily fines, this is all the same. It didn't change from one to the other. What is different? So the draft, it's clear, strict liability, and it clearly states the $200 fine. The $200 fine is already stated in the existing ordinance, but the way the language is worded, it's kind of hard to understand how it's applied, if that makes sense. So it's supposed to be daily. That's how it's supposed to be interpreted, but it's hard to interpret that when you read it. So, and then it provides more detailed procedural steps for notice, timelines, and removal of signs in the enforcement chapter. In chapter 24, the enforcement is scattered across articles. So you have variance enforcement at the very beginning of the chapter, and then you go all the way back to like maybe midway, and then there's some more forced enforcement things when really it should be all together. So you're not having to go to two separate places to find what your enforcement rules are. Let's see. And non-conforming signs, what's the same? Damaged signs over a certain percentage must be removed. That's the same. Must comply when use changes. That's the same. So if there is a non-conforming sign that's there, once that use changes, they have to bring that conformance in accordance with your ordinance.
When I was reading through the material, I think in the current one, it's 50% damage, but
Yes.
then I saw a change. It looked like
Yes.
60%. It went to 60%.
That's correct, and that's one of my notes.
Okay.
So and I put it right here too. Yeah, so in the draft, it uses 60% damage threshold. When in chapter 24, I think I just because what I have to do to be able to write these ordinances, I can't just come up with them myself. So I go to people like other places that have updated their sign ordinances lately, and I went to like 3 or 4, and a lot of them use 60. And our existing ordinance is 50, so it's just a preference. So that's an easy fix, 50 to 60. So y'all let me know what y'all think is more appropriate.
And non-conforming signs can go back to what was there prior to the damage, or did that to update to?
If it's over 50%, so as your sign ordinance states right now, so if it's over 50% of the cost or the valuation of the sign or the actual physical sign itself that you have to replace, then it has to be brought into conformance. But if it's less than that threshold, then they're allowed to put what was there before.
And who determines that cost?
They're supposed to provide a valuation. The developer or the person replacing it is supposed to provide a cost to the city. So. All right, and so variances, that's another thing is, when I was going through the ordinances, a lot of people use the terminology waivers, but I should change, that's another note I have. I'm gonna change it back to variances because as a city, that's what we're used to hearing. It's not waivers, it's variances. So what's the same, both allow applicants to request flexibility. So it means they're always allowed to request a variance if they have a sign that they want. And now does that variance gonna get approved? We don't know, but they do have they are allowed to request that if they want to. And then both are heard by P&Z and council. So the way they're hearing those variances does not change. So it still goes through P&Z for recommendation and city council for approval. And that's how it is in the existing ordinance.
Variances are heard by ZBOA?
No, for sign variances, those are heard by planning and zoning and city council. And that's how it is existing.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then so variances, waivers, what's difference? It's more of just the language again. It just creates a clear procedure process. And then it lists hardship standards. So y'all have like one or two that are like scattered in the variance process existing in the ordinance. And they sound like hardships, but they're not listed as hardships. So it's a little weird. It's like, hey, if you want to request a variance, you should have these things, but it's not just listed out. Like you should be meeting these criteria. That's what y'all should. Because if y'all don't have a criteria to review a variance against, how are you supposed to determine if it's allowed to have a variance? Because then it becomes a little subjective. I mean, it is all in itself, but if I'm talking too much. Yeah. And then chapter 24, there's no public hearing required right now for a variance for a sign. That was a little strange because I'm pretty sure I've always put one every time we've had a sign variance because I thought it was required, but after going through the language, it's not. So it is updated to include a public hearing because typically with any kind of variance or appeal, you want to have at least that public language in there, but it's not required by law. So if y'all don't want that, that's okay. And then no detail for submittal standards. Like I said, it just doesn't have like that listed out what y'all are supposed to be reviewing when the variance comes before y'all. So. Administration and permitting. So what's the same? Permit required for new and altered signs. Historic Landmark Commission review in HE and CG. It's wrong in here. That's another note I have is because I put, instead of HE, I put CHC, which it should be HE. Those are the only two historic districts I'll have is HC and CG. So I have that note already. And then full application procedures and deadlines. None of that's changing. Administration and permitting, what's different? The draft signage, the sign contractor registration requirements are in there. And then the work without a permit equals 2 times the fee. So that's another note I have. I don't think that we should have what the work without a permit fee should be. I think it should say it should refer to the fee schedule because that could change at any point. And the fee schedule is approved by city council because then you have to go back and revise your fee schedule. So this is, I think that's another note that I have, which I think it's better practice. And then chapter 24 is just shortening permitting description. And then they don't have a contractor registration section, which is a little bizarre because that is a requirement when you're doing sign work. So general regulations, what's the same? Must follow building electrical code, obstruction of visibility prohibited, and then rules for illumination. All of those are the same within the old ordinance and the same ordinance, or the new ordinance. And then what's different? Modernized lighting. So this is where the dark skies lighting comes into play. So it just limits the how bright it can be at night. There is some at night it needs to go down to a certain illumination. It doesn't say completely turned off. I don't know how y'all feel about that. I don't know how commercial buildings would feel about that to completely turn their signs off at night. But the illumination in the new chapter does say that it has to go down at dusk to dawn or whatever. Yes,
Just
sir.
dim it a little bit.
Dim it. There you go. And then explicit right-of-way prohibit you can't build in the right-of-way. they should know that, but we don't actually state that in the existing chapter 24. And I've had people ask, is it okay if I build there? And I just tell them no, because I know, but really it should be stated that you can't do that. Signs don't belong there. And then what's different is in chapter 24, the light limits are just based off of glare. So it's just, and what the city and TxDOT think is not acceptable, but really should have standards in there. So it's applicable to all. Because I mean, what one person thinks is a glare may not apply to somebody else doesn't think it's glare. So you should really have numbers that measure that. And then, like I said, it's just less measurable and more subjective. So
Brianna, on lights, I don't know that it really applies on the sign ordinance, but question, what we've seen on Highway 90 where you get like these bright blue lights or green lights.
Yeah.
How does the city control that type of scenario to avoid that?
So and it's not stated in the new ordinance, but it's something we could look into, is you can prohibit the like LED neon lights within like the windows and stuff. You can prohibit those. You do not have to allow those. So I know that vape shop that's like when you're coming down the hill. At first they had those, and it was brighter, if you can believe it. It was brighter before, but we did go ask them to like take it because they had them on the outside too. So we asked them, but we don't have in our ordinance where it's not allowed. So we just had to ask them nicely. And now all you see really is the lights that are actually coming in coming out from the inside.
Yeah.
So there's ways to code that into your ordinance. So, and it's not at this point because I was trying to keep it as conform or the same as possible. But if y'all would like to see that, I can look for language on that.
So I do have a question on the dimming. So what about facilities like, say, a C-store that's open 24 hours? That's not a safety concern at all that they're having to dim their lights?
This is specifically just for the sign.
Just for only.
This is just for the sign. They're in the future. I'm sure we will look into like what those dark sky lighting requirements are for other commercial area lights, but this is strictly just for the sign. Yeah. So it's not the floodlights on the.
Real quick on the lights subject. I know this is for signage, but let's say, for example, we don't want the flickering of bright lights at night and all this whatnot. However, we do have food trucks setting up across from the post office, and they've got strobe and LED lights. That looks kind of West-Side-ish, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
And it looks to me is something that should not be.
Yeah.
Is that considered a sign to attract you to come this direction?
I would have to ask. It's a little different.
It's annoying when you're coming down the hill and you see that light, because when you get to that level, it just blinds you at one point. And then, like I said, it just looks like the wrong side of town, flashing till 9, 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, I don't know how people have handled that because I know food trucks are becoming bigger, and I'm really unsure how they've handled that in other cities. But I'm sure somebody's tried. So I can look into it.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so dimensional calculations, what's the same? Formulation for sign area is the same. Formulation for the sign area, the height and the spacing, so nothing's changed on those. And then double face sign rules, those are all the same. What's changed is that now the way that they're presented is they're illustrated and they're in tables, and I'll show you an example of that in here in a second. And so it's just to provide that clarity. And then there's a minimum spacing requirement. So right now, like let's give an example between Bush's and Pizza Hut. If they wanted to, because those are their own properties, if they wanted to, they could have a sign that's like 5 feet away from each other, but just on their own property. There's no spacing requirements right now, which typically you should want something. So that is something I added in this one, and it's a 50-foot spacing requirement. And then let's see. And then chapter 24 measures details that are spread across definitions, and we'll get into that in a minute. And then there's no universal spacing requirement. So those are the two differences. And then prohibited signs, what's the same? No balloons, beacons, flashing signs. So all of that is the same. Prohibit signs on trees and utility poles, that's still the same. That hasn't changed. And no roof signs, that is still the same. That has not changed. Prohibited signs, which changed, like I said, it's not the the content, it's just how they're worded. But one thing that did change is that there's no off-premise signage. That's something I did include. Like I said, it's not best practice to allow for other people to advertise their businesses on other people's properties. You just want that one sign that pertains to that one business. So that's one thing I did take out. But like I said, if y'all want it, I can include it right back in there.
Going back real quick to the signage on trees and poles. whenever people put signage on utility poles, what's the enforcement and uh, the risk, not risk, what can we do to prohibit that?
Take it down.
Other than that, is there anything that can be done as far as fine them, let them know not to do it again? Or is it just a slap on the hand? Or what can we do? Because sometimes those get pretty excessive around town.
I mean, they do, and typically code enforcement just goes and rips them down, or people in the community. I've seen council people have brought them to me. Yeah, it's really hard to enforce that because unless you're going to call that person, it's just like a.
I think it indicated that it's like prima facie evidence of whoever's name is on that sign, they're responsible for.
Yeah.
You
So
know?
I mean, I don't know. I would have to talk to code enforcement how comfortable they would be like citing because it's just a sign. So do you go cite that business in San Antonio? I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
So. But as long as we still prohibit it, we have grounds to stand on to
Right.
be able to see what we can do in the future. So, and then
On this one, Brianna, real quick, clarification on the banning of off-premise signs. When you think of, say, a big commercial development that has the small fast food lots up front, and then usually a taller sign that advertises for maybe the whole commercial development, that sign will not be on the actual lot for the fast food. So does that speak to that? So you're saying that they cannot have a commercial development sign, that master sign that advertises for everybody plus a sign on Chick-fil-A or whatever it is.
What you're talking about is a commercial complex sign. Those are still allowed. It's just the one-offs like no, it would just be, let's just say McDonald's were to go, or let's say the barbecue
type sign up there.
Yeah, no, let's just say the barbecue place because they're way back here. They came and asked the dough station, "Can I put a sign on my property, on this property, to put an arrow or to say, hey, my business is over there, to advertise for my business?" It doesn't allow for that. It has to advertise that business. What you're talking about is a commercial complex signs. Those are still allowed. Those are the ones that are included in that master sign plan. And it's just but make sure that there's not a lot of chaos with those signs when they're being installed. So,
Okay.
yeah. But that's not considered an off-premise sign.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think it's just the requirement of if one of those businesses go out of business, they have to remove that sign out of their
Like
business. Yeah.
the multi-tenant sign. Yeah, they just have to remove that, and it goes. But that's for the whole commercial complex. Yeah. So. All right, and then electronic message displays. Static image is required, so it can't be anything moving. That's existing right now. So that's. And then no animation or flashing, that's existing right now and prohibited entirely in CH and CG unless at a church or school. What this is speaking to is those message boards that they're electronic, but they're just like the single like churches on Sunday. It's like usually a black with white lettering, but it's electronic. That's what that's speaking to. So that's still allowed, and that's because right now, y'all's churches, schools, all of those things are actually in residential areas. And so if you say that, then they can't advertise for their school or their church. So that's why those are allowed. What is included now, though, for this, I don't know if I talk. Oh, yeah, here it is. I'll go into it right now. Is that there's a 400-foot buffer now instilled saying that if that school is within 400 feet of a residential home, you can still have that sign, but it can't be within 400-foot line of sight. So that homeowner doesn't have to see that electronic message. So that's something, it's a best practice right now, but it can be taken out if y'all don't like that. And then, of course, it limits the 6-second hold. It's funny because in our existing ordinance, it's like no changing, but then there's like another section that says, well, you can change, just not very often, but then it doesn't tell you what, how long it has to stay static for. So this one actually gives you how long it has to be static for, how long, how large it could be, all of those things. And then another thing is that these electronic message boards, this is also a best practice, but it can be changed, is that it should be on a monument sign only, and it shouldn't be on a pylon sign. So you know how they're up on the pylon signs, some people put them like right below the actual sign. That's prohibited in the new sign ordinance, but like I said, that's just a preference. If y'all want me to let those back in, it's just like I said, a best practice right now. So
real quick on the 400-foot buffer, do you have language in there that speaks to the direction in which that is analyzed? So for an example, the signs are directional in the light that they output.
Mhm.
So if you have one that points one direction, but then you have a house off to the left that would just see the side.
There is language in there that
Okay.
states it's the direction the sign is facing.
Okay.
So it's not, you can't say, well, I'm on the other side of the block and you actually can't see it, but it's just there. No, it has to be in the line of sight from your house. So you have to be able to see it in the direction that sign is facing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And on the 400 foot, how long is a city block? Roughly 350, isn't it?
330.
330?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's a little bit over a block. Yeah. Okay, sign type, which is the same. Both ordinances restrict commercial scale sign types and residential zonings. Both ensure institutional uses such as schools, churches, civic buildings may have identification signage even in residential zoning, and both allow for freestanding signs on commercial sites with certain acreage or frontage. And so what that's talking to is that if there's, in your existing ordinances too, if property is more than 2 acres and it's allowed for more than just one freestanding sign. So they could put one on one corner, one on the other corner, or if it exceeds the 200 feet, I believe, of frontage, then they're allowed to do that. So
Real quick, Brianna, sorry to jump back on
No,
you,
it's okay.
but the 400-foot buffer, just thinking through that.
Yeah.
Because down within city of Castroville, things are pretty tight. So if we had a new sign going up, we could run into some issues, which I understand that could be handled with a variance.
Mhm.
But also, if the sign were dimming at night, or if we set a specific lumens, I don't know how you would measure it,
Yeah.
but set a threshold
Mhm.
so that a sign could go up but still be respectful of the neighbors.
Mhm.
That may help avoid future issues for you in reviewing code.
Yeah, so it's just something to look at. Like if we say, okay, they're allowed, there's not going to be a buffer, but it just has to make sure that it follows where it's dimming at night and it can't put off so many new lumens, then maybe that's the best way to move forward. Mhm. And then let's see. Okay, I think I went through this. Okay, so sign type, what's different? The draft creates one clear table, and we'll look at this right now. Pole and pylon signs are only permitted in commercial and industrial areas. I don't know why they were in any other areas in the other chapter, but it just doesn't specify. It says in all their zoning districts, but it doesn't say but not in residential. But we would never allow for that to go in. But you see where the language is misleading. And then prohibits, like I said, off-premise signage. And then chapter 24, they have a special sign district along Highway 90, and it's very confusing, and we'll get into it right now. Because you have all your sign standards that are already in definition, so it's already very confusing. But then you have to go to the back of the chapter if you're on Highway 90 for the special sign district, which, if I'm being honest, I've never even seen the outline of the special sign district, so I wouldn't even know where that's at. So I just always follow the commercial signage. But apparently there's another sign district overlay somewhere in the city where then there's a whole nother set of rules. But the weird thing is the rules pretty much mimic the rules that are in the all the other commercial signage. So it's very strange. So here's an example of the different language. So on the left is the draft section, and this is for freestanding pylon signs. And it has all the information. It shows where it's allowed, if it's a single tenant, if it's a multi-tenant, the restrictions, height, all that good stuff. On the left is what's currently in your ordinance. Everything highlighted in yellow is where it has regulations for freestanding signage. And as you can see in the red numbers, those are all in different sections. And that's just for one freestanding sign. So you have to go to 4 different areas within your existing ordinance to find all the regulations for one freestanding sign. Same thing with commercial complex. Everything that's highlighted in green, that says commercial complex. So that's regulations for commercial complexes that are in 3 different areas if you want a freestanding sign that's in a commercial complex. So as you can see, it's a little crazy.
Yeah.
And you see all the language. This is not typically how sign ordinances are done anymore because it's really hard to interpret this. It's so much easier to look at a chart and just say, oh, look at the height is 30 feet. The height is 25. It's very simple. It doesn't have to be this complicated. So I just wanted to kind of weed that out a little bit. So, okay, so now we're going to get in just a little bit of the nitty gritty. I'm not going to go through all of this, But we're going to just go through a little bit. So max height is the same for monument signs. It didn't change. Max area, the only area that that got a little larger was industrial. We don't have industrial except for our airport, but typically industrial is allowed to be a little bit larger, like a commercial or something. So I did increase that just to reflect more like how it's supposed to be. But like I said, it can go back down to, I think it was 32 in the original ordinance. So max areas didn't change from one draft to the existing ordinance. And then there's no max square footage for the electronic display allowed. It just says it can't be more than 50% of the sign, which I think is also a little bit bizarre, because if you have an 80-foot sign, then you're allowed an 40 square foot electronic message sign. That's huge. Like it's a little outrageous. But so right now, like I said, best practice, the max is 12 square feet or 50% and 50% of the sign area. So if it's bigger than the max, it can go to 12 square feet for an electronic display. And typically that's sufficient for businesses. It shouldn't need to be bigger than that. It's a bit excessive if it is, but that's just another thing that we can talk about. Pylon sign. Let's see. 24 does not allow pole signs. That doesn't sound right. Okay. As you can see, the heights don't change. Let me think. Oh, the only change here, sorry guys, I think I put the wrong note at the difference. The only thing that's changed is for some reason in your existing chapter 24, it says 25 to 30 feet. You could keep it at 30, you could keep it at 25, but I don't think there's really a reason to do like a range. Yeah. Yeah, I'd say so. I put 25 there, but if y'all prefer 30, it's just a range. Like I don't think it needs to be a range. And then same thing, max area. Everything's the same. Chapter 24 does not specify the allowed sign area for industrial for a pylon sign. So I just went ahead and kept it at the 64. I'm not sure. And then I say doesn't allow. I went through y'all's existing sign ordinance as best as I could. So there might be a section where it is allowed and I just could not find it. So I'm sorry if y'all go through and like, oh, there is a square footage for this. It was just in like a weird other definition. It's just because I tried to do this as best as I could. Okay, and then max area for commercial complex. There's no differences. Everything is exactly the same as the existing ordinance. And like I said, that's just those multi-tenant signs. That's a commercial complex sign. And then spacing requirement. The existing chapter 24 does not have a spacing requirement, and the new one does have a 50-foot minimum spacing requirement.
So on the spacing requirements, is there a certain distance you have to stay off your property line? Because that, if one business puts it on the corner of theirs, it impacts the other business.
It's not off the property line. It's just saying that it can't. So if the one already has one right here on the corner, then you can't put your sign. You have to put it at least 50 feet away. The next sign can't be closer than 50 feet, but it's not a setback requirement. It's just the distance requirement, a spacing.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. Let's say one business comes in and he puts it on the corner of his lot, and he's up against another lot. Well, that forces the business next to him to move theirs all the way to the other side of their property. Mm-hmm. So one owner is impacting another.
That's correct. Yeah. And that's just, it's just kind of how it goes. And hopefully you're the first one there so you can see where it's at. So.
Yeah, two neighbors could squeeze the guy in the middle and then.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you could do like a tandem, like one's at the front and one's at the back of the lot. No.
Can we have a side property setback of sorts
For signage?
for signage placement?
No, typically a sign is just allowed on your property, as long as it's on your property.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then going back to monument signs real quick,
Yes, sir.
buffer properties.
Buffer properties, okay?
What is that included in the signage?
Oh,
ordinance
you're
as well?
talking about specific use property.
Specific use properties.
So no, there's, and you know what, I should have known that you're going to ask about. No.
How do you know? I'm just kidding.
No, so the only way to benefit from regulating the way you want it to be regulated is if you were to condense all of this into a UDO, a Unified Development Ordinance, because right now the sign is a standalone ordinance, and to try and regulate from a CZO, because that's where the specific use regulations are at, it doesn't jive, because you don't go to the sign ordinance or to find specific use things.
Okay.
So
But the language is already there for specific use.
that's correct.
Okay.
The best way to do that
So not
moving
touching.
forward is just kind of like how we talked about like the institutional uses. Well, maybe in the future, like pulling those out and creating an institutional zoning. It would be also like an overlay or a specific use zoning where that when somebody's looking at a zoning map that all those properties that are under specific use have like an overlay on them so you can see that. So whenever it pops up, and let's just say like the dentist, it comes in again, whenever it pops up, now I know, but I don't know if I'm always going to be here. So the next person doesn't know because those are just standalone ordinances.
Only 3 properties
Yeah.
affected, yeah.
Yeah, so then it would pop up so people know to actually go look at the CZO for that. So, yeah.
Brianna, going back to what Todd was asking about as far as, and what Jim brought up,
Mhm.
if you've got a couple of people that are squeezing the guy in the middle, as far as signage goes, is there a possibility that you could do something to the effect of, one sign per business and stipulate they must be equal distance from each other? That way, the guy in the middle still gets to have a sign, but he's not squeezed out just because one guy puts his over here and the other guy puts his next to it. I mean, if we're going for equity,
Yeah.
It's kind of hard when somebody comes in and you say, well, sorry, you should have gotten there earlier. I mean, that's probably not a real good answer, but
Almost to the point of where one guy has to say, if it's 50 feet between them, he has to keep his 25 feet off the property line so that they have equal
Oh, I see what you're saying.
opportunities on
Yeah.
the property.
I see what you're saying. But I just also think about like, so you look at the, like where El Rincon's at.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think if that's a good one. Because typically the people do like to put it at the corner because you have the driveways that come into the property. So, and so if you're saying it has to be 25 foot, then you may be pushing that driveway where they don't have enough room for that driveway to go in because now you have to put your sign in the middle of that property where maybe you didn't have. I think that moving forward, we're not going to see a whole lot of new signage. The Highway 90 corridor is fairly built out. The only large scale new signage that we're going to see is probably new development. And those new developments with this new ordinance will have to do that commercial complex master sign plan, and they'll have to account for that. So I don't see that being a really big issue in the future. Yeah. I'm trying to think if I could.
maybe temporarily you could say, just put a term in there like where applicable,
Yeah.
yada yada yada, and then go on.
Yeah. Because once you get to that, trust me, the first person that says that we're applicable, they're going to say, I'm not applicable to that. Because unless you give reasons. And that's when you start zoning for the exception and not for the standard. And then that's when ordinances get a little crazy because
You're trying to take into
you're trying to take in every scenario, and it's almost impossible to do that. So, but I could also look at language to see maybe where people have done that better. So I'll put a note down to look at it. Yeah. Let's see.
So on Racon's sign, if they were to leave there and somebody else comes in, how they're going to have to possibly move the new owners? Will they have to move their sign?
No.
Because with the new addition right there, they're going to put their sign up somewhere's there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And it says you're going to have to conform whenever ownership changes.
Only your ownership, not the property adjacent to you.
Right, but then that sign would be within the 50 foot is what I'm getting at.
Maybe. I mean, the minimum lot frontage for a commercial business is 80 feet. So I believe. Yeah. And so right there, for sure you're having an 80-foot frontage no matter what. And I'm pretty sure even though it seems tight you're talking about between Portal and the drive-through?
Yes.
Yeah. Even though it probably seems really tight right there, I'm pretty sure that they're going to have enough. Well, you know what? I don't know because that sign is right there on that corner.
Yeah.
And I think it's in the right of way when Larry put it up.
It probably is.
I think
yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
So if we're having a no right of way rule and it changes ownership, would they be required to remove that sign?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm for that, honestly.
Yeah, it's not change of ownership, but if it's a change of use. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So once they come in for their new signage, it would no longer be allowed if the use changes. So if it's still a restaurant, it's still okay, but it's just use change.
Okay.
I'll look into the language for the 50-foot spacing requirement to see, because that could be a possibility, just to see maybe how other cities have handled that. So yeah. All right. So electronic, we went through pylon, I think. Okay, so this is the one. This probably has the most differences, and like I said, it's because those electronic message signs right now, like the 50% of the sign just seems a bit excessive. Like I said, I could change it though, but that's a big electronic message sign. If you're allowing for a 64-foot pylon, a 64-foot sign, a square foot sign, then you can have a 32 square foot electronic message sign. That's massive. So that's why I put 12 square feet, but that could change. That's not set in stone. These are just all recommendations. Placement, only monument signs. And only on monument signs. And of course, the illumination, that's another big thing. There are illumination requirements as to right now, the only language to illumination is that there's no glare or nuisance. So now those are, and then like I said, must be 400 feet away from residential buffer. Right now, there is no buffer requirement in the existing ordinance. So this probably has the most changes, but that's also because it also includes those dark sky requirements that we've been talking about. So. Wall sign. This is the one where I made another note because as you can see, it says it's 20. It's a little different. So this one says 25% of wall area. In the existing chapter 24, it says 10% of wall area, but excluding all windows and doors. I think that could be cleaned up a little bit. I think if you just made it like a 10% of wall area, that'd probably be a little bit better. Excluding the windows and doors, that could get a little tricky just when it comes to calculation. We do that right now, but to get those people to do it, I mean, they do it because we make them, but it's like pulling teeth because they're like, well, is it the whole door? Is it just the door that where there's a window at? Is it this? Is it that? It just becomes a big headache on a review side of things. But if you just said 10% of wall area, it's easy, but it's completely up to y'all. It says 25, but I was going to change that down to 10%, because I think 25 is a bit excessive also. So, and then the same, there's no difference with mounting rules. Okay, max sign area. Oh, for projecting sign, the only thing is for some reason it has a first floor and a second floor. I think we don't have a lot of these. Those are like the ones that come off the side of the buildings that you see downtown. I don't think we have any of them, and it's not the marquee sign like you see over the theater. So I'm not sure. I don't think we have any of these. I don't know if we'll get any in the future, but I don't think we need a first floor and a second floor regulation. I think if you just keep it at a 24 square foot max, you'll cover your bases there. And then the existing ordinance doesn't give specific zoning for it, so the new ordinance just does, because you want to always make sure to cover your bases there also.
Brianna, quick question for you. On talk about wall signs. It's one thing when it's a pre-manufactured sign that's mounted on the wall. Mm-hmm. How does the city view painted walls? So like if somebody paints a logo on the side of their building, is that signage or is that?
Yeah, so painting is still considered signage. Yeah, so it's any advertisement on that wall. So they do exclude. The existing sign ordinance does kind of exclude murals from that, only because it's not an advertising. Typically it's not a promotion of a building. It's more an artistic thing. So it does exclude, I think, artistic murals.
It's like that building in Constantinople right there.
Yeah, that's considered a mural. It's not considered a sign, but where Dan's Meat Market is, or they have that painted, that is a sign that is regulated by the wall sign requirements. Yeah. And that's in both of the ordinances. Okay, and then residential development sign. So this is another one where I found where I messed up. I didn't put a max in there. I'm recommending 32 square feet. That's the max right now for anything less than. This is another one. If it's less than 6 units, then it can be 32 square feet. Or if it's over, it's wordy. I don't think it's necessary. Pick 50 feet, pick 40 square feet, pick 32 square feet. But I don't think it needs to have all these additional requirements. Typically, when you're driving into development, it doesn't matter if there's 100 homes behind that development sign or if there's 5 homes. It's just a development sign that you see from the ground level. So, and so that's just one. I put 32 square feet, but that could also change if y'all think it should be 50, whatever. And then the illumination just must meet the dark skies requirements. Oh, and right now it can't be illuminated internally. Actually, I think that should stay the same. Typically, residential development signs are not illuminated internally, so I'm going to make another note of that if that's okay. Y'all think that's right. So, like I said, going through these, when I say them out loud, it's a little different in my head.
Do you consider like backlit behind a metal cutout internal?
Yes. Anything if it's not projected. So yes. If it's not like a light shining onto a sign, anything internally where it's yes, that would be considered an internal illumination. They have a terminology for it, but I can't remember what it's called. It's called like backlit or something.
Yeah.
Temporary sign. Right now, let's see. Oh, right now it just says in the new draft sign, just max 32 square feet. Those are typically banners. Those things that you see along highway. Most of the time, it's the banners. 99.999% of the time, it's banners. Right now, the existing ordinances has all these different regulations for every temporary sign you can think of. When I think you could just say 32 square feet, and that pretty much covers all your bases when it comes to temporary signage. Like I said, 99.99% of the time, it's a banner. And then it says illumination, but that should be like how it shouldn't say illumination. It should say like duration. So the draft sign is 30 days for every 4 months. Right now, it's 30 days for calendar year, but you can have them in 10-day increments. Another really wordy, really hard to enforce. To have 10-day increments is a really hard thing to enforce because typically when businesses are advertising for something special, if they're running a special, they want it up for more than a few days or more than just 10 days. So the standard is 30 days. And I think it should stay like that because from an enforcement standpoint, there's no way Curl can keep an eye on every banner for every 10 days to see how many times that banner's been put up that year. So that's just one change I made. I think it's for the better. I think from an enforcement standpoint, it's better, but I can always change it. Okay, marquee. I promise you I'm almost done with this. Okay. Marquee signs. Let's see. The draft has a max height. The existing ordinance doesn't. So I just put 10 feet. It's a standard also. Max area. Draft has a max area because right now Chapter 24 doesn't. It's 50% of the law area. And allowed per building, that's the same. Illumination is the same. And then the location is, the draft has a specific location where that marquee sign can go, and that's only on performance and movie theaters like the Rainbow Theater. So, and that's pretty typical when you're going to see those. And then let's see, exempt signs. What's the same? Exempt routine maintenance signs, small non-illuminated signs, and government signs. That is all the same. It didn't change from one to the other. Exempt. What is different? There's a limited list on exemption because instead of trying to how am I trying to say this? We try and regulate what we can regulate efficiently. Trying to list, oh, well, you can have a birthday party sign at your house. There's a lot of things on that list where Curl's not going to go to somebody's house if they have a birthday party banner. And those are the things that are right now on the exemption list. So it's just pulling a lot of those things where it's just almost like a common sense where we're not going to go look at that. If it's inside your home, I think one section it says if it's inside your home, then we're not going to go enforce that. Well, of course we're not. We're not going to go into your home. We don't do that now. So we don't really have to specify that. And then Chapter 24, it does exempt flags and window and door signs, but in the other ordinance, in the draft ordinance, we do have regulations on that because you should have regulations on door and window signs because then those can get a little out of control. And then even flags because you don't want a 70, 80-foot flagpole in somebody's yard. So you want to still limit those things. And right now we don't, but you should. And then common signage plan. This is what I was talking about that commercial master. Right now, the master plan for the commercial buildings, your Chapter 24 does not have them. The new draft ordinance does. It has how they apply for that, what it should look like. The standards of the signs do not change though, which is good. It's all the same standards. So if they're going to put a freestanding sign, that is allowed. The same areas and the same allowances are for the signage plan. It's just that it's all in one plan together instead of it being just individual signs coming in. So. And then let's see, definitions, what's the same? They're all the same. It just provides definition language in the ordinances. Nothing's changed. I mean, I'm sure some of the definitions are different, but it's still just for definitions. And have a special district, especially when most of those requirements are the same. key takeaways. So reorganize the section structure. So just to make it more, this has like a table of contents. You know what you're looking for. If you're trying to find something, it's easy to find. Clear permitting and variances procedure, which was not provided in the original ordinance. Enforcement updated, dark sky standards, zoning-based zoning matrix, so you can look at one place and know if that sign is allowed or not allowed, and common signage plan, which is not provided right now. Okay, we're done for that.
Good job.
All right, I know it's a lot to take in, guys. I'm sorry, but we had to have a starting point somewhere.
Yeah.
So.
Great. Well, thank you for doing that. Definitely an intense presentation, but also tenfold the effort to get to where you are. Yeah. So no, that was a lot of work. What does our path forward look like in your mind?
So I'm going to share this PowerPoint with everybody. And I would love, because that's a lot to take in. And I know that there's probably a lot getting thrown at you. And I know this is a little homework on y'all, but I would love if I shared that, if y'all could provide me any feedback that y'all have. Initial feedback, ajar things that you feel like just didn't jive with you. And then we can talk about those at the next meeting. We don't have to go into deep dives trying to come to conclusions tonight. This was just more to kind of get the structure, the differences, and so y'all can try and mull that over a little bit, because really this is a whole nother ordinance, and I think y'all are going to need some time to do a little homework on it and do a little research and see how that feels. And then the next time we come back, if y'all have any any comments about it, I would love to try and talk to those comments, and that's what we'll probably do. And this is probably going to take 3 or 4 meetings. I do not expect this to be like a 2-meeting thing. So next time I'll go through those comments. The next time after that, I'll probably iterate some of those comments into the new ordinance. And then maybe after like the 4th or 5th meeting, that's when we can make a recommendation to City Council. Does that sound like a good plan forward? Just know at some point we're going to have to come to like, is it going to be 40% or 50%? And we're going to have to make some hard numbers on some of these things. So, all right.
Good. I think as an Aggie, I'll probably pencil in there that my Longhorn wife cannot hang a UT flag.
I'll second that motion.
Sounds like fighting words.
I know, seriously.
Yeah.
You know these are recorded now, right?
Get it when you get home now.
He'll never be able to sleep in his home again.
I know.
Yeah.
Keep one eye open.
All right, guys.
Okay.
So no action on that. Thank you guys for taking the time to listen. I know it was a lot. We're going to move on to temporary storage language. This is a lot shorter, a lot more precise. I hope maybe we can come to some consensus tonight, but we'll go through it. So why are we doing temporary storage? I think maybe everybody here has seen a connex of some sort on somebody's property for probably a really long time. And so we're trying to address that, because right now we do not enforce that in our current ordinances. So really there is no way for code enforcement to address those. So that's why we're going to provide some language, hopefully, so they can. Applicability. So this complies to all containers placed, and we'll go into the definition right now, placed in a property within the city limits. So this is not ETJ. We cannot regulate for these in the ETJ. So this is only properties within the city limits. Okay, temporary storage definition. I just went to like 4 or 5 different places and found what other people are doing. I'm not going to, reinvent the wheel here. So this is just one that I found. If it doesn't resonate, we can always change it. So temporary storage container includes shipping containers, connex, intermodal, residential moving / storage containers, e.g. pods type, and then any other similar portable storage units. So I think that's all encompassing. It's pretty straightforward. But if you feel like it's missing something, or if it's too wordy, we can work on that. Limitations on number and duration. So residential districts, 1 container allowed for up to 30 consecutive days within any 12-month period. This is just for people, moving out of their houses that need a pod out there to be able to do so. So I think we should still allow them, but we just need to limit them. And then 1 30-day extension may be granted by the community development director. If y'all want that to be city administrator, that's fine. Typically Scott tasks me with all those things regardless. So, and then commercial industrial districts allowed for the duration of an active construction permit. And that's just because out there they do typically need some connexes, some temporary construction. to hold all their tools, their materials, so things don't get stolen when they're not on site. And then the containers not tied to constructions are limited for 60 consecutive days unless approved otherwise. So if y'all have any ideas about that, let's see.
So unless approved otherwise means it can be extended because typically a construction project lasts way longer than 60 days.
Oh, yeah.
So, and you have your storage containers there for the duration.
Yeah, so this is just saying like if it's not so if it's tied to a construction permit, so let's just say like Alsatian Oaks, they have a construction permit for the work they're doing. So and I'm sure they probably do have connexes out there somewhere. As long as that permit is still ongoing, then there's no limitation on it. Now, if there's no construction permit for whatever reason, but there is a connex on site for a commercial renovation, something like that, then it's only for 60 consecutive days. Mm-hmm. Placement requirements must be placed outside of the public right-of-way, fire lanes, parking, and visibility triangles, a minimum 5-foot setback from property lines, and must be on a paved or stabilized surface. This one I was a little, I don't know, because a lot of people just pop them there on the grass, but it's just something that's there.
I actually like that because then it incentivizes them to, hey, let's hurry up and get it, because I like it being on an improved surface, possibly even taking up a parking spot. Mm-hmm. That way it can get out of there quicker.
Yeah.
Because the one that was next to my house for a year, it was in grass. I'll be admitted.
Okay. Yeah. So that's good.
I like the improved.
As far as the definition, real quick,
yeah,
could that include U-Haul rental trucks that are parked in front of houses for 30-something days? Because I've seen that too.
Yeah, that is not included in here. Yeah, those are considered vehicles. And
okay.
This is strictly, we do have a parking ordinance that if we needed to update, if that's an issue around town, but this does not speak to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe the parking ordinance speaks to commercial vehicles.
Yeah, but it has like a weight, and it's a really high weight. Yeah, yeah. So, and I don't think that those U-Hauls are classified within that.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much like anything like 18-wheeler. Yeah, like 18-wheelers, but even without the stuff in the back are not allowed to be parked there. Something like that.
I know in San Antonio, it was usually using the street for storage was their ordinance, and it had to, if a vehicle was in the street in front of a residence, it had to move at least once every 24 hours.
Okay.
So
yeah, so it's not just stagnant.
Yeah. It had to be moved. Now, whether they got in it, drove down to the store and came back, but it had to be moved. And if it wasn't, then it could be towed.
Okay.
But if it's in the public right of way.
Yeah, in the public right of way. Yeah. So maybe that's something that we look into. Okay. Yeah. And I don't know if we speak to I don't think we do, but I'll have to look into it. Okay. All right. And so let's see. Okay, we went through that. Okay, so permit requirement. So permit required for containers on site for more than 48 hours. So if there's anybody who's just coming to drop it off real quick to pack up their stuff and get out of there, it would be a lot of work just to issue a permit for 48 hours. But if we can know that it's just going to be there for 48 hours and get it in and out, then I don't think a permit is necessarily required. And then, but when a permit is required, application includes sketch, placement, sketch, dates, and responsible party information. So we know that when the time has been up, we know who to contact to get it out of there. So.
Quick question on your slide. Mm-hmm. Is that a storage container or a she shed?
It's a storage container, but yeah. So that's why. If you're like, well, that doesn't look so bad, but it's a slippery slope, guys. Yeah. It's a slippery slope. So you have to pick, like, are you going to be okay with that? Because the next person probably isn't going to make it look that cute. So it would apply to that. So it would not be allowed for more than the 60 days. Or the 30 days for residential. So this is what you're also regulating out is the cute she sheds. So
where did that 48-hour number come from?
It's just
out of the air.
Yeah, out of the air. Other people use 48 hours. Why? You think it should be?
Well, if somebody's moving in, moving out, I don't believe there should be a permit required just to pace it there, because it's going to take you more than 48 hours to load up. Usually, I'd say 5 days, a business week.
Okay.
7 days, something more like that. Because it gives my opinion.
Yeah.
Gives the wrong impression to somebody who's moving in. Hey, come and get here all your fees and all that. Oh, we're going to charge you $50 more just to set your storage there for a couple days, download it.
This is saying a permit is.
Well, on the pods.
Yeah, only if it's more than 48
Right.
hours. Okay, so you're saying you should move that minimum up to like 5 days.
in my opinion.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's okay.
Because by the time it gets dropped off there, they're usually in transit.
Yeah, exactly.
They unload it, and then by the time the company comes back and picks it up,
Yeah, so
it gets, I say 5 or a week.
a week.
I mean, I don't know what y'all
No,
feel.
I think you're
Okay.
hitting on a good point.
Yeah,
because
uh-huh.
It does,
Yeah, that's
just the sheer process of trying to get it in and out. makes
Yeah.
it-
Because I know at one point we're even trying to do travel trailers
Mm-hmm.
because they keep them in storage, you bring them in. I think at one point the talking point was 48 hours there,
okay.
in and out, loading, unloading, and then taking it back to storage
Yeah.
in the public right of way. And I know this is on your property, and I don't like the idea of charging for.
For something that's only there,
Yeah, a couple
that's
days.
even if it's more than 2 days.
Right.
Yeah, okay. No, we can bump that up to like 7 days. That's okay. Hey, that makes my
Does 7 days sound good to y'all?
I would think that would be an appropriate amount because,
Yeah.
Depending on, like I said,
well, I mean, if you looked at it from the standpoint of just practicality, if you did 9 days, that includes 2 weekends. So if somebody's like, "Oh, I'm off on Saturday, Sunday this week, Saturday, Sunday next week," I mean, if you give them 9 days, I know it stretches it, but still,
Yeah.
if we're going to be a move-in friendly town, you know,
Yeah. It's good.
unless everybody can call in your relatives and then you can get it done in a week. So, I don't know.
I like 7. Sunday of 1 week, Saturday of another weekend.
There you go.
I like 6, 7.
Okay. And then, I mean, anything over that, like, and the permit fee for this could be like $25. So if they need to keep it there for 2 weeks because they're having issues, then they just have to come pull that permit. But at least we have that date established so we know that they have to move it after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it doesn't become a problem.
Exactly. Yeah. So,
I like
okay.
that. That's
We'll
good.
do the 7 days. That's good. Okay, let's see. And then maintenance standards. So containers must be placed in good condition, no major rust, graffiti, peeling of paint, or structural defects. And then must be remain secured and not used for habitation or hazardous materials. And then prohibited uses cannot be used as a permanent accessory structure, offices, fencing, screening, and cannot be used for residential or commercial occupancy, which is pretty standard. So any questions, additional comments? I have the 7 days that I'll mark down. And this is, like I said, this is not for action tonight. I still have to write the whole ordinance and bring the language back to y'all. But if this is the only comment for it, then I'll go ahead and do that. And then, so next time we can maybe look at recommending it to council.
And I guess just kind of a spin-off question on that. If somebody brought in, let's say, a tough shed
Yeah.
and fitted it out, and that you can't occupy that and sleep in it or anything, right?
No, that's still considered an accessory building, and you're not allowed to occupy an accessory. Hold on.
Is that considered also off-site built property that you can't?
It's not that
dwell?
you can't occupy it just can't be a dwelling, but a
Yeah.
dwelling is constituted as something that has a room, a bathroom, and a kitchen. So if a tough shed, like you would have to fit it to have like a room and a bathroom. Like if you wanted to just put a bed in there, that's completely up to you. It's really hard to regulate that unless we're going to be going into every accessory unit to see what they're actually doing in there.
Yeah.
But if it was a large one and if you fitted it correctly to make it like where there's a bed and a bathroom, you're allowed to do that in the city limits. So, because you're talking about tough sheds are the ones that are just like
like that one over there right after COVID. Remember that family that moved in?
Yeah.
There was like 17 people
Yeah.
in that tough shed.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
But the way to enforce that, I know this is kind of off topic, like I just said. The way to enforce that is you're not supposed to occupy anything that's off-site built other than a modular home.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, I know. I see what you're saying. Do we have that in our existing ordinances? No.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it wouldn't fall under this, but that's something we could look into.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Very good. Any other questions or comments on that item?
All right. And then we already went through the Victory Lane Development Agreement, so we're not going to rehash that. I'm not even going to let y'all try. And so I'll let you go on to that. Sorry, Jim, I'm trying to take your job.
No, that's fine. No. So item 5D, discussion and possible action on to schedule a joint workshop with City Council to review the development agreement policy.
Yeah, so y'all did all this work. We had our own workshop with the development agreement policy. I don't know in y'all's packet if you looked, but Mr. Lee had some comments, and instead of trying to make this a back and forth thing, City Council requested that it just be a joint workshop. I put some, some possible dates. Is this does this need to happen right now? No. Besides the Victory Lane development agreement, that's the only one that's been knocking on our door, but it's been in the works for like 3 years, so this wouldn't apply to it really anyways. But I put some possible dates, but if we need to push it to like February, March, June, no, I'm just I'm okay with that. But if we could get something on the books tonight so I can present that to council so we can try and coordinate something, it would be great.
So I will be out of town on the 14th.
On the 14th, okay. I think January 7th is a little bit soon. Yeah. So maybe January 21st, anybody?
I cannot make the 21st.
Okay, then let's
It's the
we're
stock
gonna
show.
look towards February then. And this is all part of it, just trying to schedule with a larger group of people. Sorry, excuse me.
You've been looking up there this whole meeting, looking to see what it is. I watched you.
The wind, something.
It's a
You
drip.
hear it?
Yes.
It's a drip. Something dripping.
It's a drip.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. All right. And the first
So we're looking at Wednesdays?
I believe so. Yes. Yes, the Wednesdays. Oh, because I was like, well, if we wanted it, we could have it instead of having like our regular called planning and zoning meeting. We could instead hold a workshop. We don't have a lot of pressing things that I have so far. So if let's just say we had a variance that came through that we needed to see that in the February meeting, maybe instead we could do I'm sorry, I'm not explaining myself very well. Where we had that meeting at 5 p.m. to just hold that one section and then go into the workshop if y'all would prefer to have it in the afternoon. Something like that where we worked out both on the same day of your regularly called meeting. So let's see.
That would certainly work out good for me.
Yeah. So right now, the meeting for planning and zoning for the February would be February 11th. Does that look okay?
That works for me.
Yep.
Okay.
Works for me.
And then do y'all have a preferred? I know there's some people that still work full time, so I put 2 p.m. only because sometimes it's better to hold them during the day. But if it works better, I would recommend maybe doing it not at 6:30 because 6:30 is kind of late if there is a lot of discussion, but maybe pushing it up to 5:30. Would that be okay with everybody? Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then we'll put it for February 11th at 5:30, and we'll see what happens. And if I can get that scheduled with council, I will send out a calendar invite to everybody. So
And that's a Wednesday?
a Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you need a backup date in case council is unable to use that date?
Sure. Yes. Let's see. I mean, I'm trying to think. There's only one other board that has a Wednesday meeting. Is that the park board or is that on
That's
Monday?
Parks Board is the 18th.
Okay, so we don't want to have it competing with other boards. So if we had a secondary backup, maybe the 4th or the 25th of February.
Either of those are fine
Okay.
with me.
I'll do the 4th just to not push it off for too long. But if there's any issues, we can always
What about
talk
everybody
about
else?
that
Is the
again.
4th okay?
Yeah.
It's back
Okay.
up for you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, sounds good. Thank you guys.
All right. So with that, then we'll move on to the next item, discussion action on the Heights of Castroville final plat, which that package was not submitted to the city, so there's nothing for us to discuss or act on.
That's correct.
So with that, move on to the next item, discussion on future agenda items.
So for right now, this is what I have for our next meeting is bring back any comments that y'all had for the draft sign ordinance. Temporary storage, I'll go ahead and create that ordinance and that language so we can hopefully make a recommendation to planning and zoning. Heights of Castroville for the final plat. If they're ready at that point, then I'll bring that to y'all. And then if there's any other zoning and plat items that y'all want me to start working on. And then the last thing Jim reminded me of was elections. So that's what I have right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Are there any other items that you guys would like to see on the next agenda? Okay. All right. Well, then we'll move on and adjourn at 8:17.
All right. Thank you guys.
No, Marcus, I watched the news for Arcade. Did you see where the raccoon broke in the look?
The cutest thing.
I was going,
Where's the raccoon?
he's in there.
But did you see the picture of him on the
Yes,
floor?
it's
Flat out.
Oh my god, I could not stop laughing about that. Did you see what they posted like on their Facebook though? She was like, the suspect has been apprehended and brought back to sober up and for questioning. Like,
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Or 900 Elizabeth. They planning on a variance because they wanted to redo that house over there. They're going to build within that 20 feet setback.
yeah, so that's going.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're trying to set up that meeting for ZBOA for the December 29th, I think. Yeah. I think I got a quorum
Thank you, Val.
today. So that's
Yeah.
what, yeah. So yes, they are. Yeah.
All right. We'll see you guys.
All right.
Good one.
Y'all be good.
Thank you, sir. Yeah.
And then actually, just because you're the one who brought it up the first time, the fire station's also coming for a variance for that on that same meeting. So
How far away are they in it? Do you know the foot?
I think it's like 9 foot off the property line or something. I don't know for sure. Maybe 7, but I know it wasn't right on a property line from the survey they had, but it was like 9 or 7 feet or something. Yeah. So
That got overlooked. I don't know.
overlooked. Well, no, they just built it. They didn't come for permitting on that.
Oh,
Yeah. No, it wasn't overlooked. They didn't.
What was that?
so they created their own peculiarity.
Yes,
What?
they did. Yeah.
They
No,
built
it
what?
didn't get overlooked.
Oh.
Yeah.
Building what?
Did they even get a permit to redo